In this session, we're going to focus in on creating the image for the social media post. And last time we created the text for the post. We're just going to come down this same method here, generate post. And instead of passing in the post text directly and just telling it to create an image based on that, we do this intermediate step here and tell it to create an image prompt based on the post text. And that does a much better job, and it's one place that AI really excels is to create an image prompt. It does a much better job than I could ever do. So I have it generate the image prompt first, and it uses the same service as it did before to create the text, AI generator service, but it has a different method it uses that I created, and we'll F12 into that and take a look. It passes in the raw text, which in our case is the text for the social media post that we've already created, passed in here, plus the configuration. And remember, this could be any OpenAI compliant configuration that's passed in. That allows us to use different services for this, but it takes this string builder and it creates the system prompt again, similar to what we saw in the last session. It creates this system prompt. And now down here where we're going to use that Grok text service, which was injected into this up here into the constructor using that dependency injection we talked about previously. And now we see down here it calls the generate text just like it did when we used it before when creating the text for the social media post. But it passes in the system prompt we just created here, telling it that it'll create a single image prompt. And then we also pass in the raw text, which is the post text that we created, right? And then passes also in the config. And so if we jump into that, it's going to be similar. Well, actually, it's going to be the same as what you saw before. It is setting up and configuring the OpenAI client options, the chat client, passing in those options along with what model to use that once again comes from app settings, this configuration, whichever one the person chose before from the menu, and for generating text. And then it will use that model with the API key, which is stored in user secrets in my case. Looks similar though to the app settings. Once again, it creates that list of chat messages. In our case, it's just a system and a user prompt. Sets up a temperature of 0.8 to give it some randomness, some creativity there. And then it calls the complete chat, which basically hits that API and returns a completion. So it goes down here and it returns the text from that first array, that first item in the array of content. It will remove the markdown formatting, which just like last time, it's just going to remove some of this markdown formats, the asterisks, the underscores that it sometimes will put in. And so then it just returns that text from the completion. Now we come back to the AI generator service, to the generate image prompt. We receive that image prompt now, and it returns back to the program where we originally called it here. Okay, so that brings us full circle back to here. We now have our image prompt, and if you'll notice, even if we don't have the include image as true, I go ahead and create the image prompt. And the reason I do that is because it'll log that out, and that can be used still manually. So I go ahead and create that image prompt even if we don't create the image. If the include image is true, we're going to use the AI generator service again, but this time it's going to call into a method called generate image. Now let's go into that with F12, and here we see that it's bringing in that image prompt we just created, again passing in the configs and the path to the PNG file, which will be where the image is going to be stored. And so, hey, I just noticed we are actually creating a new image service down here using the new keyword. So remember, we're using dependency injection, And back here, you'll notice where I'm configuring services. Right here, I'm already adding the image service into this service collection. So we can take advantage of that. So let's do that real quick. We'll go in here to, we'll go back to the AI generator service. Let's just go up top here real quick, and we will bring in the image service in the constructor, right? So let's do it with that, and control dot. Yeah, we want to assign that to a field. So, but we want to name it, I like to name it with the underscore when they're fields like that and at the class level. So let's rename that. And now we don't need this keyword on that. So we're good. So now that's going to bring in the image service. It's going to inject that in automatically. It's going to assign it to this field up here. And yeah, now we can use it. So we can come down here, and instead of using new, we can just get rid of this now. And now we can just call the image service right here. Now let's pick back up on this. We use this image service to generate the image. So let's go ahead and look at the definition of that with F12. We're passing in the image prompt, the AI config, and the PNG file path. We're going to create a new image client. Again, that's part of the SDK that OpenAI has. That's that NuGet package that we bring in here with OpenAI. So that's one thing that's important that I didn't mention. You need to bring in the OpenAI NuGet package. And so just remember to do that, and then you'll have that available, and you can include it up here. OpenAI.images here. We are creating an image client, passing in the model and the API key. And in this case, it comes from App Services has DALL-E 3 as the model here. That's what we're passing in. That's what we're using. And the API keys will come from user secrets. So next we create image generation options. And this is important to tell it what kind of image you want. High quality, 1024 by 1024 in our case. I'm using a style of vivid. And then I'm telling it to use bytes for the response format. We'll use that image client we created here, and we will call in to the generate image async on that client, pass it in the image prompt and the options that we just set up here. From there, we have the bytes available that are returned, image.imageBytes. We'll get those. We'll store those in bytes in this case, and we will write that out to the PNG file path using this line right here. But that's all it takes to generate that image using AI. And now we'll go back to the programs where we were generating that image. And you'll see here that we have generated the image. And next, if that file exists, we make sure that it does. And then we use our utility that I created to convert PNG to JPEG. So we'll take a look at that real quick. This is going to use another NuGet package actually here. So if we look at the dependencies, this uses something called SixLabors.ImageSharp. So again, we brought that package in right here, a new fully featured, fully managed cross-platform 2D graphics API for .NET. And now we're going to make sure the file exists. If it does, we're going to load this image in. And we're going to create a new JPEG encoder, which is a quality of 80. That's what we passed in. I wanted to make it where you could pass in different qualities. And then if we look back here now, we create the encoder with the quality and simply save that to the output path that was here. And that's going to be the JPEG output path. So that's the really you can see that's pretty simple utility that we've created to do that. We'll come back here now, and we have converted that. Now we use that same social post object we created up here, where we already added the text to it, right up here, the post text. Now we're going to take that same object and add the post image, at least the path to the JPEG. And that's pretty much it for creating the image. We've created an image prompt, then we created the image, both of them using AI, but just, using generative AI to create both text and then an image. And so the result is something like this: the text that is generated and then the related image. And so we'll just look at a couple. The text generated here, of course, this one was Quantum Realm. It did mention Schrodinger's cat, and so the cat's in the image. It usually does a good job just relating stuff. And you can see here it talks about AI, neural networks, mimicking our brains. So we have our text, we have our image, and now it's time to start posting it to our social media platforms. And that's what we're going to look at in the next session. We'll start with X, and I hope to see you there. Take care.